Cool. We're live, and I just want to remind folks that if you would please comment in the comments. We'll see them. We can share them. Would love to know who's listening in and what's going on. If you have any questions, we'll answer those as well. I'm here with John Fitch today.
Whoa, this way. There we go. Pointing back at you.
Excellent. So we're going to talk a little bit about being intentional about your meeting culture and remote collaboration, and how taking a step back and thinking about the meeting as something that can be designed is a really helpful way to encourage collaboration, because I think a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in this moment now around remote collaboration is the fact that people weren't great at collaborating in the first place. And whenever people talked about collaboration being a core value, what you found inside those organizations was that they would just talk a lot. They would get together and talk. And that's that. And their notion of we're collaborating because we're talking. And we believe that unless you're doing work together, if you're not doing the work in the meeting, you're not really collaborating. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think about, we spend a lot of energy having workshops or meetings specifically applied to a given project or an endeavor or some kind of milestone. So essentially we're having workshops about work that we're all responsible for. Yeah, I think it's really powerful if you zoom out and you actually have a workshop for your meeting and collaboration culture. So pressing pause to say, how are we working? What is serving us? What isn't? And then coming up with better solutions. And just today, I was rereading my notes of the 80-20 principle. And just that simple workshop alone of your meeting culture, what are the 20% of meetings that produce 80% of the value, or the breakthroughs, and therefore maybe cultivate more of that. And that, I think that's worthy of someone's time. But I know we're not only going to talk about better meeting culture, but also tools.
Yeah, well, before we get there, I just want to point out because what you just talked about is really important, and I want to make it really clear to folks that if we're going to do meeting design, we need to think about good design practices and good design principles. And one of the first things you do if you're going to design something is make sure you have really solid research and that you have gone through plenty of discovery. And so what John's talking about with his 80-20 rule is getting really clear on what are the 80% that matter, or what are the 20% that's providing the 80% of value. Really focus in on that 20%. Those are your design opportunities. Those are the opportunities where you can rename the meeting. You get really clear on why they work, and maybe do more of it or protect it, because you don't want to lose those opportunities. And the other thing I'll say is the 80% that's providing that 20% of opportunity or value. Maybe there's opportunity to reduce them, have less of them, or maybe there's something about them that's not driving us much value, or you can schedule them accordingly. So pay really close attention to that discovery piece. Do an inventory of what's there.
Yeah, and in that inventory, I think what's promising for all of us to remember as leaders and managers is likely your best practices already exist, but they're in a micro case. They're in their own island. It could be one person or a small team or a given project. And what you're trying to do is find the behaviors and principles of those minutia, and then figure out a way to make it macro across your entire organization. So you don't need to go search elsewhere. Likely a person or a small team already is showing an amazing example of quality best practices in collaboration and good meetings. And that investigation piece that you're mentioning will allow you to find that. And so then that person or small team could likely give some insight on, hey, here was how we did it, and here's our case study, essentially internal case study, and let's figure out a way to design that across the entire organization better.
I love it. And the other thing that we wanted to talk about was the tools. And let's talk about a little bit about design here, because one of the things people run into, one of the issues that I see, is letting the tools dictate the design. So if we do that discovery up front, we think about our problem space, we think about our opportunities, we get really clear on kind of where we think we're headed, then we can look at how these tools might be in service. So even though we suggested some tools and categorized them into different opportunity areas or things that they can do for you, please, please, please do the design work up front. Think about redesigning your meetings, think about your meeting culture, and then look at this list for inspiration on the tools that you might use to accomplish that. And of course, we're big fans of Mural. This is on the Mural blog, and we're going to be showing a Mural template here in a second. But of course, like we use Zoom a lot. I just did a little LinkedIn live session on some of the new facilitator tools they just released. We're really excited about. John, what about some of these others? I know we use Loom quite a bit.
Yeah, Loom has been the tool I was hoping for a long time. And prior to Loom, I basically just did QuickTime screen capture. Essentially, hey, I'm going to do a quick talk track. I'm going to make a quick video of me showing something on my screen and demoing it. And I've always used that to help plan a meeting. So making sure to share like a video example of me walking through the agenda or some context to participants ahead of time so that they can get an understanding. Or what I use it for the most is, let's say me, Douglas, and a team just got through having a workshop. I'll do a screen recording video via Loom walking through our assets that we created in Mural. Basically, I'm doing a walkthrough of our design room, our digital design room, and then sharing that not only with the people that were in the workshop, but also maybe their stakeholders and other leaders so that they can feel like they got the highlight reel of the meeting or workshop we had. And what's nice about Loom is that they made the screen capture video conversational. So I can share the video and Douglas is watching it and he's 2.5 minutes in and he has a comment box. So he could ask a question. Maybe I wasn't clear on something, or he could just make a comment and I'm able to have all that. So this like asynchronous video sharing allows me to have an effective way to share the story of the meeting or workshop after the fact.
Yeah, another one we're really big fans of is Figma. And I like to tell people, imagine it's like your favorite graphic design app. If you're familiar with the graphic design applications that are more dialed in for user interface design, like a Sketch or an Adobe XD, then that's fine. But if you're not familiar with those things, you could even think Illustrator or even like Microsoft Paint. Just imagine a visual, like some tool that allows you to draw and design, and then imagine that combined with Google Docs so that we can collaborate in real time. And we've been using it during design sprints, of course, because we're collaboratively coming together with a bunch of people to work on something in real time. But we've also found it to be really huge for everyday projects inside of Voltage Control. If we're building some marketing assets, or and we can all work on it together.
Absolutely, it's just made high fidelity design more approachable and easier to collaborate, and highly recommend that tool as well. And we've again found ways to make it work for us. But to Douglas's point, when you're going to come up with your own remote collaboration tech stack, I think if you're going to take any inspiration from what we have here, is think about your different functions that you need and then match the tool to the functions. Don't just pick the latest and greatest tools without thinking through the functions you really need as an organization. They're going to be unique to your business.
That's right. And if you're thinking about your unique functions, you might force the tool to do something or work in ways you never knew. It might force you to discover a feature that sounded cryptic, but now that you're in pursuit of this kind of capability, you realize that, oh, this thing will kind of do what I need if I kind of twist it a certain way.
Yeah. Going back to the Loom story, it's kind of the last thing I say. We collaborate with sometimes our outside designers just for design help on certain things we need. And a common problem we had prior to using Loom was context was a problem, meaning I can draft a award-winning Pulitzer Prize email in text and still not quite get across what I need, whereas a short little video provides context, especially if we're creating something visual. Likewise, the designer we're working with can very easily send something back that's a video that we're like, oh, I get it, whereas we probably would have failed translating that if it was text only.
100%. So we're gonna end here with a little exploration around the Mural template that accompanied this article, and it's called Perspective Reveal. And we thought it would be really fun to explore how people see
Hmm.
the potential inside meetings, and so let's take a quick look. So
Nice.
first we explore, together, this notion of divergent perspectives, and then we'll start to look at what if we explore convergent perspectives. And this is meant to be an exercise to demonstrate what it's like to experience meetings from a different lens, or if everyone in the meeting is participating in different ways, how it can impact the outcome of the meeting. And we're not saying that one is better than the other. We think in certain circumstances, one might serve you better. So again, it's similar to picking the tools. If you think about the purpose, what you're desiring to happen in the meeting, then you can select the tool that's going to serve you better.
Yeah.
So John, let's take a look here. What's happening in this divergent perspectives? So we're turning on private mode, and where everyone's going to be taking notes while there's a conversation happening, and it means that we won't be able to see anyone else's input. Like, what are we modeling here? Like, how is that going to be impacted that no one can see what everyone else is typing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that each participant in a meeting is bringing a gift, and that is their unique worldview. Some people are in a meeting, they want to get to specifics as soon as possible, whereas someone else on the team doesn't want specifics. They want to think really big and dream really big and design very crazy concepts. And again, someone next to them might be in the middle. They like concepts, but they ultimately just want to optimize things, and maybe they just don't want a lot of meetings, right? And each one of those preferences is valuable for us to consider, because if we just default to one of them, well, if in those three examples, 2/3 of the people are going to kind of be unheard. And so by having it in private mode, each person can just stream of consciousness share what they want. And I can see other people are sharing, but I'm not going to be persuaded by what they're saying, because if I'm noticing a theme in real time, and my belief is counter to that theme, then I might not express that counter. And that counter is important, at least from a facilitator point of view, to extract some of that diverse thinking. And so private mode is an amazing tool to let people just, I think, express themselves, but it also has that social pressure of, hey, you can see other people creating, but it's kind of cryptic. You can't see what they're sharing. So I think that's a healthy way on the input side. But then when you finally reveal it, it's kind of this magical moment where you then start to see some of the patterns, and then you look for what was contrasted, what do we have in common, what are some obvious problem areas that we actually need to discuss. And I find that regardless of who you have in the meeting, there's going to be surprises. And that's the point of running this, is we wouldn't have been surprised otherwise. So as a facilitator, I think first you just want to extract as much diverse thinking as possible, and then look for the gems or the really surprising elements to then synchronize the team on.
Yeah, it can be really I was going to say revealing once we reveal or expose these at a hidden mode, because we can look at those differences and what are those conflicts, and let's really focus in on the stuff that we think is different. And maybe those would have been omitted. Of course, we lose the opportunity to inspire each other, though, right? That's one of the challenges here. And so we had to think about, like, what are we designing for? Do we want people to inspire each other, or do we want the anonymity? Do we want the people to feel psychologically safe to say whatever, knowing that no one will know who said what and whatnot? And so let's take a look at the convergent perspectives. So here we're going to not have private mode. Well, we're going to turn on private mode just for a short amount of time to just so they can get a few ideas out. Then we're going to turn off private mode and have everyone continue adding stickies. So now we get a little bit of anonymity. We get a lot of cross-pollination happening. We spend the bulk of our time cross-pollinating and allowing everyone to yes and each other. And so I think really to me the insight is like actually having a meeting about your meetings. So it's like introspective. This template's used to like analyze how your meetings are run, but also it's an opportunity to learn about group dynamics and how people behave during the private modes versus the non-private modes.
That's right. And I found that in this exercise, at least from a facilitator's point of view, that it's like we all should, I think facilitators would benefit if we studied linguistics, because words matter, and you realize that a lot of times people just want to change up the taxonomy, like taxonomy of whether how you name the meeting or how you name the exercise, what words did you use to introduce it, matter. And so these sessions, you start realizing what patterns could be leveraged to improve just something as simple as the taxonomy. And it could have there's a lot of profundity in that, in terms of, wait, if we just change up the names of our meetings, it can set better expectations, for example. And that's, you may find something much more deeper, but I found that something simple like that can come up once you allow people to pattern match and do some sense making together.
100%. And then, we just ask people to, as a fourth step, then to step back and think about, like, how are these approaches different? Rather than, just privately doing stuff and then discussing the differences, privately adding ideas, and then silently reacting to others that you're seeing and yes-anding each other. Like, what did you notice about the ideas you had before seeing others and then during, and how did that feel? Did it impact who was more likely to share? Did you see dynamics on the team shift? So really cool to take that moment to debrief, think about how that impacts your other meetings that you have. And then of course this template could be shifted. You could use this template and this way of thinking to look at other ideas, not just meetings. So really encourage you to try this stuff out. And I guess, John, any final words for folks?
Yeah, this may seem very fundamental, but I think that's why it's valuable. Is if you do this template, which won't even take you 30 minutes, it's going to teach you something valuable. And that is, you do not want to default to group think. In both moments, we honored individual work and individual thought and expression. Then we socialize. And you'd be surprised how many organizations just don't do that. They just default to, hey, open mic, popcorn, go. And that's a problem for several reasons. One, whoever's the best at knee-jerk reactions is probably going to dominate. Whoever is more of an improv mind and extroverted maybe is going to dominate. And people that just need time to process and think and write things out aren't going to have a chance to really contribute. And so try out this template just to experience the dynamic of solo work followed by some group dynamics. And I think people will walk away saying, well, we just need to do more of that in our workshops, because it levels the opportunity for everyone.
Absolutely. And that's a nice thing about the template, because it is meta. It is like you're using the template to reflect on your meetings, not going in and doing the work. So people might be a little less passionate about it. They might be willing to listen a little bit more versus being protective about like this thing that they think is going to impact the outcome of their job or things that they have to, or pain that's going to create them. So thanks so much for listening in, and we'll see you next time.